I am semi-retired right now. I'm concentrating on my writing, both my book and my poetry, for which I am an award-winning poet. This particular book, Choices, Changes, and Friends, it was the four of us getting our divorces together in the early 70s. And all of it that was going on during that time, the wild and crazy, alcohol, sex, drugs, rock and roll. And we were bored housewives, tired of the Tupperware party and the Avon ladies. So we wanted to experience some fun. We had all gotten married way too young. So we wanted to get out and get into what everybody else was doing, which of course, what could ever go wrong? Except of course, everything. We were very naive, inexperienced. We decided that there were other women who could learn from us, because we had been approached, each one of us, several times and asked, are you the one who got divorced? And how do we do that? Because it was so totally unacceptable at that time. So that was when we decided to tell our whole stories. So I interviewed each one of us for our personal backgrounds, not to excuse anything we did, but so that there would be some understanding. We did want other women to be able to know they did not have to stay in a marriage they weren't happy in. And that was the most important thing. And in doing so, we talked about the importance of learning from our mistakes, becoming independent, the whole freedom, and the realization of being able to choose the men we wanted to be with. I remember I was in an advanced journalism class, and it was only about 6 weeks or so into it when the teacher said to me, you know, I think you would be better in creative writing. Since I preferred my own stories to the ones that we were supposed to be writing. So I transferred to creative writing, and I was very, very lucky. My first teacher really kind of expressed how much he felt I could do. And then I went on in college. I started out with psychology and sociology, and dropped the sociology and went more into creative writing. That was where I began to develop myself. Well, it is a memoir. Everything in the book is true, as wild and crazy as it is. And some of the really things that we did, as I said, frequently influenced by too much alcohol. Of particular, and one of the funniest stories in there is we had gone to see a play which it was actually based on a Broadway play, and the star was actually in Chicago, and he had become a fairly well-known TV and getting into movies, and just kind of joking around and everything with him, propositioned him. And we never expected him to say yes. Two crazy housewives, you know, and it turns out to be not only hysterically funny with the whole thing, but an experience that not only changed our lives, but in sharing it with other women, the bottom line of the story was anything is possible. And especially as you grow and change and you become more independent, and what your freedom means to you. Once I find something that fascinates or interests me, and then I start doing research on it, and then I try to then humanize it as much as I can. And that's where, like, to get the personal stories in, to really bring so much into it. So a lot of it is, what am I interested in? And that's what I tell my students, because I taught memoir writing for 10 years. What is it that moves you? What's important to you? What is happening that you want to really share with other people? I think there's always a lot to learn when you're reading about other people's true lives. What they've been through, people are always amazed. Oh, I had that happen to me, or that similar situation happened to me. So a lot has not changed, unfortunately, with relationships. So even though my Choices, Changes, and Friends book covers 40 years, it's still dealing with 4 women in their mid-20s dealing with relationships, and not a lot has changed. So there's always something to learn. And I think also, if anyone's interested in history, how things were different. Each one of my books covers a different part of history in a different part of the world. I love to hear from my readers. There's a half dozen endorsements at the beginning of the book of people who had read it and their review, their takeaway from it. And for some of them, they say, I had no idea it was going to be so funny, or I had no idea it was going to be so ironic, or I would laugh so much. And to see how many things were similar, even the younger people who read it, they were like, oh my God, you know, or gee, my sister needs this, she's going through her divorce. But importantly also, some of the older women who have said to me, I would have given anything to have just one person support me when I got my divorce. There were 4 of us, and we had each other to help us get through it all. And to me, that always means a lot, and just in them reading the book and knowing that. As I am the last one standing, I had held the book back from publishing it for the last friend who passed, and she said to me, she said, I want you to get that out there. I want everybody to know what all we did. We had a great time. I have no regrets. And there's a lot that I did that probably wasn't in the best idea, alcohol involved. But I think that is one of the key things, is that, you know, people who look at it for the honesty that it is.